Are you curious on how to use Splunk to keep an eye on your domain controller? Then this video is for you. Today I will show you how to set up Splunk on Ubuntu, install the Universal Forwarder on your domain controller and easily search for data. So without further ado, let's get to it. So the first thing that we need to do is to install Ubuntu, because we will install Splunk on Ubuntu. So make sure to download the Ubuntu's ISO file. I already have it. Now we will create a new VM inside of our security group. So we click on it, we click new, we can give a name like Splunk, we upload our Ubuntu's ISO file, we click on skip unintended installation because we want to manually install our Ubuntu, we click next, we give 4096, we click next, we give 100, next. Now, on our security we have 𝐷𝒐𝒂, as you can see, that we use for forensic analysis, and we have Splunk that is used to analyze, search and monitor data generated by our computer. Now we can configure our Splunk, so we click on it, we go to settings, we go to system, we uncheck floppy, we click on hard disk, put it at first, optical at second, we go to network, we choose internal network, where it says attached to, the name will be LAN 4, and now we click OK. Now before we can set up our Splunk, you should have pfSense running, because pfSense will give you internet connectivity on your Splunk VM. So I already have mine, but if you don't have yours, you click on it and you click start. After you have your pfSense running, you can click on Splunk and click start. Now we click enter on try or install Ubuntu. Now we choose the language, we click next, here we click next, here we choose the keyboard layout and we click next, and we update the installer and we wait a little bit. Now we will close our installer and relaunch it once again so we can continue our installation. So we close the installer and here you can double click on it to install Ubuntu. So we need to choose the language once again, we click next, the keyboard once again, we click next, we choose interactive installation, default selection, we click next, install third-party software for graphics and Wi-Fi hardware, we click next, here we choose erase disk and install Ubuntu, we choose a username, here I will call it Splunk, we insert a password and we reinsert that password and we click next. We choose our location and click next and click install. And we just need to wait a little bit while our Ubuntu is being installed. So as you can see, now our Ubuntu is installed, we just need to restart our system. So we click on restart now. We click enter, now we log in, now we click next. Here we select the skip for now. And next we click no, don't share system data, and we click next and we click finish. Okay, now that we have our Ubuntu installed, we need to make some changes, and one of those changes is install guest additions. Now to do that we go to devices and we click guest, insert guest additions CD image. Now we click here on this CD, double click, we right click here on the empty space and we click open in terminal. And here on the terminal we will run a command that will install guest additions. That command is sudo./vbox/linux additions.run. We click enter, we insert our password, and as you can see we need to install 𝐵zip2 in order to install our guest additions. So we double click on it, we copy, we insert sudo apt install and we paste the 𝐵zip2 and we click enter. Now we wait a little bit and now we can run the command that will install our guest additions, and that command is this one. We click enter, we wait a little bit Okay, and we have now our guest additions installed, so we can take this off. Now that we have our guest additions installed, we can right click on the CD and we click on eject, because in this way we are removing the guest additions CD image because we don't need it anymore. Now let's maximize this window like so, and as you can see, because we have installed guest additions, now our window resizes automatically. Now let's update our system, and to do that we can go to our terminal. So we click here, and to update our system we can use the following command: sudo apt update and sudo apt full -upgrade, and we click enter. We enter our password, we wait a little bit, here we say yes and we wait a little bit. Now our system needs to be restarted, but we will shut it down because we will take a snapshot of this VM. So we click here, now we click here, we click shut down and power off, and we wait a little bit. Now let's take a snapshot of our Splunk and we name it fresh install. Now we click OK, and we can click once again on these three dots to go back to details. And it's time to install Splunk on our Ubuntu. Now, just so you know, we will be using Splunk on our domain controller, aka Windows Server 2019, as you can see here. So we go to Splunk and we start it. Now we can log in, and now let's go to Firefox and let's download Splunk. We click here, and you will need to create an account in order to download Splunk. I already have an account, so I will click here and log in. Okay, once we are logged in, we go to products, we click where it says Splunk Enterprise, and we click free trial. And because we will use Splunk on our Linux, we need to click where it says Linux, and we will download the .deb package. We click on it. Now, as you can see, our package is being downloaded, so we wait a little bit. So as you can see, our Splunk is downloaded, so we can go to our terminal. So let's do it. Go to downloads, because I think that this package was downloaded to downloads. So cd downloads, and here we have it, guys. We have our .deb package, and now we just need to install our Splunk. But before we do that, we need to install some dependencies in order to Splunk work properly. To install those dependencies, we run the following command: sudo apt install curl, and we click enter. We enter our password, we wait a little bit, and now we can install our Splunk. Now, to install Splunk, we use sudo dpkg-i, and the name of the file, in this case Splunk, and you autocomplete the name with tab. Now, before we run this command, let me just tell you that the dpkg-i tells the system to install the specified .deb package. Now let's run this command. We wait a little bit, and as you can see, our Splunk is installed and ready to be launched. To do that, we use the following command. Let me clean the terminal first. Sudo /opt splunk bin, and then Splunk, then start, then --accept -license -answer -yes. Now, before we run this command, let me just tell you what this command does. So this command goes to the path where we have the Splunk executable. Then the start tells to the executable to execute. Then the accept license automatically accepts the Splunk license agreement. And normally starting Splunk for the first time requires you to manually accept the license agreement, but this flag will bypass that step, and then the answer yes part of the command automatically answers yes to any prompt that might appear during the startup process. I will enter 𝐂𝒕𝒊𝒔𝒕. We enter a password, we re-enter that password, and you should write this username and this password down, because every time that you will access Splunk, you need to use these credentials, okay guys? Don't forget it. As you can see, we can start Splunk in this link here, so don't forget. You should write this down so you don't forget that every time that you want to access Splunk via Firefox, you can use this http 127.0.0.1 8000 on your Firefox. Now we can make our Splunk start automatically every time your system is booted. So to do that, we can use sudo /opt Splunk bin and Splunk once again. Enable, then boot -start. So with this command, every time that you boot your system, Splunk will start automatically. We click enter, and now we will create a snapshot of our VM. To do that, we can close our terminal, close these as well, go here and power off our VM. Now let's create a snapshot by clicking in these three dots, snapshots, take, and we can name it Splunk, and we click OK. Now we click here and we go back to details. So we have Splunk installed, however we need to configure it. To do that, we click on Splunk and we go to Start. Now we log in, and now let's go to Firefox to access Splunk. As I told you before, you need to access Splunk using the link that I showed you when we were setting up Splunk. So http://127.0.0.1:8000. Now here we will use the credentials that we created when setting up Splunk. Now here we will add a port that will receive the data from our domain controller, okay guys? So to do that, we go to settings, and where it says data, we click on forwarding and receiving, and where it says receive data, we click on add new, and we insert the port 9997, which is the common port that Splunk uses to receive data. So we save it. Okay, as I told you before, we will transfer data from our domain controller, aka our VM called Windows Server 2019, to our Splunk instance on Ubuntu, as you can see, to this instance. Now, to do this, we need to install something called Universal Forwarder on our domain controller. We install Universal Forwarder because we want to collect and forward log data from the DC to our Splunk instance. Now we will install our Universal Forwarder on our domain controller, so we need to power on this VM, so the Windows Server 2019 VM. So we click Start. Now on my computer, so I will not use the VM. After login, you can go here and you can write Universal Forwarder like so, and you go here where it says download Universal Forwarder for remote data collection Splunk, and because we will install this file on our domain controller, which is a Windows, we click on Windows and we download the MSI file. We wait a little bit, and as you can see, our file is now downloaded. Now, before you can drag and drop this file on our Windows Server 2019, you need to enable drag and drop on this VM. So to do it, you can go to settings and you go to advanced, and you can enable drag and drop here. Okay guys? Now I will put this here and I will go to files. I will open the file explorer, I will go to downloads, and I will drag the file that we just downloaded and drop it here. Now to install this, we double click on it, we check this box to accept the license agreement. We click next. Here you just need to insert a username and the password. We will take this off and insert a password. And here you can use the credentials that you used on Splunk on Ubuntu. Then you click next. Now here we need to see what's the IP address of our Splunk VM. So we go to our terminal to see what is our IP address. So IP 8. And as you can see, our IP address is this one, 10.10.10.33. Now you enter the default port, in this case is 8089, and we click next. Now we enter the same IP address, so 10.10.10.33, and we insert this default port, so 9997, and we click next, and we click install. We click yes. We wait a little bit and we click finish. Okay guys, and we are almost done. So we have our Splunk installed on Ubuntu and we have the Universal Forwarder installed on our domain controller. Now we just need to connect them. So to do this, we go to Splunk, so this one here, and we expand it, and we go to Splunk on our Firefox. We go to settings, then we click on add data, and here we click on forwards, we click got it, and we should automatically have our domain controller here where it says available hosts. Now here we click on add all, and we will give a name where it says new server class name. I will give domain controller, like so. Then we click next. Then we select local event logs, as you can see here. Then we click add all and we click next. Now we will create a new index, and if you want to know what's an index, you can read this here. So we create a new index. The name will be Windows, and be sure to remember the index name because you will need it. And we save it. Then we click review and you submit. And the last thing that we will do is to query Splunk for data from our domain controller VM. To do that, we go to apps, search and reporting, we click skip, okay, skip tour, and here where it says search, we will search for our index. So to do that, we insert index like so, equals, and between quotes we will insert the name of our index. In my case was Windows, like so. And now we click enter and we wait a little bit. And as you can see, we have our log files here. And that's it guys, this is the last episode of our series on how to create an elaborated home lab. And I hope you enjoyed creating your home lab as much as I did. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to this channel for more content like this. Before you go, check out this video here. See you next time, stay curious, stay safe, and happy hacking! Bye bye!